Hello guys and girls, it's Anders. So today what we're looking at is using vocal samples from loop packs and getting them to be something new. Now I've taken this particular track here because I've used the entire vocal phrase from a sample pack. It is Katrina singing aka Tiger Light. And this was taken from one of the really old high-ranking dubstep packs. I say really old, like 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago. I'll link it in the description if you wanted to grab it. I think this sample might even come in the free pack. Don't remember, not sure. That's for you guys to figure out and download and have a look. Essentially, the track, or this little section of the track here, sounds like this. Now, it's a weird layout. It's an odd number of bars to what you would normally have for that type of section, but it's how I wanted this track to be structured, and it works nicely in the overall bit. And what's important is I've taken this one phrase, which is 140 BPM in G sharp minor, and used it in this section, which is why I've used it over that odd number of bars. When I say odd number of bars, it's not broken into like 8 or 16 or 32, for example. It's 24 bar section, which is a little odd to have as in a signature, but it works here, and it works because I've gone to a completely different BPM. If we go to my custom settings here, you see the track's at 174 rather than the 140, but it has been repitched as well. But because we're working in an odd number of bars, it allows us to adjust it differently, and it works fine. I think what's important here is if I take these effects off, listen to how drastically different this is. This is going to sound awful, by the way, because I've worked it into this track, but I just want you to get an idea of how much you can change it. Yeah, that's enough of that. So you get the idea. It's way out in terms of difference, and I've done most of that using Izotopes Nectar plugin, which is why it's up on the screen here. There's also Rvox afterwards, which is just doing some like light compression, just like 3 dB, just working after Nectar here, just to give a little bit of cohesiveness and compression. You'll understand why as we go through it. And right at the end, because of some of the artifacts that are going on, a DS is catching those quite nicely, which is just the FabFilter one there. One of my favorite DS plugins, by the way, just for the GUI at the top and the feedback it gives you, really useful. So if we put these back on, don't need to look too much into those, but I will show you what's going on with them. And obviously we've got Nectar. Now, just a quick breakdown on how Nectar works. On the left-hand side, we've got a signal chain, and right at the top, we've got this pitch section. And in here, I've swapped the range to lower, given the speed of 57 milliseconds, which is probably relevant to something. Let's have a look. Yeah, so 1/24 is 57.5 milliseconds. So it's going to be changing that speed and pitch approximately in time with the track every 1/24. If you put it in perspective, that's like over 24 beats. Similar to like how 4/4 is 1/4 on the floor. I use that a lot in Logic, by the way, where you can grab the delay and you can get things to work nicely in time. It's great for compression timings. And then transpose wise, I've dropped it down the full octave, but we've looked to preserve the performance by -6 semitones and scale by about 4%, and then it's retuned again as well, so being pitch corrected as well. Now there, if we look at the EQ as well, we're taking out lows, taking out highs, And it's got a nice big boost here, and that's what's giving it like that sort of hollow sound. You could do the reverse of this EQ and dip it out instead, dip it out in these areas, but just doing the boost here worked. And yeah, we are clipping a little bit, but it's working with the sound. That's then going into a de-esser again, and we de-ess again on the way out as well. What we could have done on Nectar was grab this and dropped it right down in the chain. However, it was working better here after the EQ, and then just put another de-esser afterwards. We've got the DSP, so that's what we've done. It's then being compressed really slightly. I think it's just catching the tops of the sound. So we can see the GUI at the top here. The GUI at the top here is just taking like 3 to 4 decibel out consistently. I wanted that just to smooth off those plosives and get this. Just for this particular mix, it had to work like this. It had to sit right in there. And we've got some saturation going on, really gentle amount pushing in. It's just giving that sort of vintage sound that I was going for. I wanted it to really distort and just sound like it was coming from an old microphone, old vinyl type sound. And it does. It's been pitched down and reworked for the amount we've done to it to get this sound sitting in the mix. Works really well. By the way, if we solo it, it sounds terrible, but it sits in this mix.
The music takes me places that I never dreamed that I would go.
Yeah, it's wobbly, there's like distortions and bits going on everywhere, but in the mix it's really working to have its own space and sound. A bit of delay on it, which we can obviously hear going on just there. And then reverb, but I've taken the highs and lows off and just got the reverb centered, and that's what's giving that room sound to it. And afterwards, like I explained, we've got RVox going on. And that's compressing again by about another 3 decibels. So in total, I'm taking a maximum of about 6 dB off, but the vocal itself does fluctuate by quite a large amount, up to sort of like 12 or more dBs in places. And I needed it just sort of crushed and just put in the mix so it's always audible. It's just sitting at that right point, because there's a lot going on at this particular moment with the keys, bass, some synths going on, all the drums. There's a lot happening at that moment. And that last little bit of compression just holds it in. If we take that away and take the de-esser away, while that's okay, it's a little bit lost. If we bring them in, I'll leave it out and then bring them back in, you just hear the difference. Remember how we soloed it and there was like some warbles and bits going on? That's what the de-esser at the end is catching as well. So if we put it in audition mode and we solo it, you can hear the artifacts it's capturing. Yeah. Okay, and as you can see on the Pro DS here, the green sections are where it's capturing that, and we're just listening to what it's taking out at the moment. So if we switch it back over, so it's still all over the place, but in the track it works. And what we'll do here is just take a little bit more of the tune, and we can just have a listen to how it goes into it and comes back out of it. We don't need that whole lot. We'll just do that chunk there. I just wanted to hear how that works, and just to give you an idea of what you really can do with vocals when, you know, they're in a different register and they're in a different BPM. You can still be creative with those and work them into your track. Also just shows you that Nectar's a pretty damn good powerhouse, but you've got all these effects separately that you can apply in your own chain. And if you'd like, what I'll do is make this exact chain in a Logic project, and I'll show you how we could do that as well instead of using it inside Nectar. So let's have a listen to this through, and hopefully it gives you a little bit of inspiration. I will probably see you guys after Christmas.